Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News First at 4.
Good afternoon, I'm Steve Hensley. First at 4, Governor Matt Bevin has signed the pension relief bill into law. The state Senate this morning voted in favor of the bill, largely along party lines. The Senate approved House Bill 1 with a vote of 27-11. Republicans still say the bill is not perfect, but it is the first step and the right first step. But Democrats are concerned that the bill will take away benefits from employees at dozens of agencies.
We are ending the state's partnership with its employees. And maybe it's not obvious today, but I think if that happens, it's the beginning of the end for state pensions in this state.
Now, under this bill, groups can either stay in the system or choose to exit it by paying what they owe. The bill has an emergency clause, meaning it will take effect immediately. We'll have much more on this tonight at 6. 2 Paintsville pharmacies are leading the state for opioid shipments between 2006 and 2012. WYMT's Marianne Fletcher talked with the Johnson County Sheriff's Department about how the pill problem changed their jobs.
When you think about pharmacies shelling out 10 million opioids, some would not believe that could come from a small eastern Kentucky town.
Really, that sounds about right.
According to data from the Automation of Reports and Consolidated Order System, ValueMed Incorporated and the Medicine Cabinet in Paintsville ranked number 1 and number 4 across the Bluegrass State for opioid shipments between 2006 and 2012.
They want their high, they're going to do whatever they have to do to get their high.
To break it down for you, local pharmacies were supplied enough opioid pain pills to provide every man, woman, and child in Johnson County with more than 152 pills each year.
It's just unbelievable.
Since 1991, Deputy Tim Clark has worked with the Johnson County Sheriff's Department.
Years ago when I first started, none of that was around. You didn't see any needles unless it was somebody that actually was diabetic or something.
After the Drug Enforcement Administration cracked down on pharmacies, addicts are turning to homemade drugs.
So there's a reduction. It kind of made it a little bit tougher to get some of those pills that our addicts was wanting. So therefore, that made an increase in the methamphetamine use.
Deputy Tim Clark tells me although they do not see as many pain pills on the streets, it is still a big problem. In Johnson County, Marianne Fletcher, WYMT Mountain News.
Coming up later at 6, we'll have more on those numbers and show you the effect on today's addicts. A group of coal miners is hoping a meeting with Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell of Kentucky will help their cause. They want to see a higher tax on coal companies to put money into the federal Black Lung Disability Trust Fund. Senator McConnell joined the meeting to personally assure the Kentucky miners and their families that, quote, "We are going to maintain the fund and that's a commitment I intend to keep," end quote. We'll have much more on this issue coming up at 5:30.
Listen, there's not enough adjectives out there to describe how beautiful it's been across the region today. Came to work with the windows down and the sunroof open. It's just going to be another gorgeous day and another cool night. Let's take a look at what's going on right now across the region. Stonecrest Golf Course in Floyd County, Prestonsburg area. We're seeing a few clouds there. Some folks out on the greens. I saw a few golf carts going by just a little bit earlier there. Outside WYMT, same situation here, same scene as you look outside, and we see live pinpoint Doppler radar scanning clean skies once again today. Temperatures, nobody in the 80s right now, getting close there. Prestonsburg and Ashland, Moorhead too, all at 79, along with London and Jacksboro. A lot of folks barely into the 70s there. Look at Wise, only at 70 there. 81 in Jonesville. I missed that earlier, so we have one spot in the 80s. Dew points, look at this, all the way down in the 50s for most folks. You have to get to 65 or above before you get sticky, so you know it's not humid out there. It's a beautiful day across the entire region. Just get out there and enjoy it. So your headline headlines. Another cool night tonight. That fall preview continues. I'm calling it this instead of a spring retreat because basically fall is closer than spring, and heat returns as we head toward the weekend. I'll have the rest of the forecast coming up here in a few minutes. Steve?
All right, thank you, Brandon. A Southern Kentucky teenager dies in a crash that police say alcohol was likely a factor in. It happened on Kentucky 167 near Monticello in Wayne County. A 16-year-old died, and police say the 18-year-old driver is in the hospital. WYMT's Phil Pendleton has more on what happened.
Kentucky State Police say that it was a very violent crash that happened here on Kentucky 167, about 2 miles outside of Monticello, around 10:25 last night. It was a lengthy investigation. We're told that police were out here just about all night long investigating what took place. Police say a Dodge truck was driven by 18-year-old Brennan Criswell of Monticello. That truck ran off the road, went over an embankment where it plowed into some thick brush and several trees. His passenger, 16-year-old Sarah E. Catron of Clinton County, was taken to a Somerset hospital where she died. Police are still investigating, but they do suspect alcohol was a factor. As of now, there are no charges filed. Police say they are waiting on blood test results to come back. In Wayne County, Phil Pendleton, now back to you.
Police say the Dodge truck was the only vehicle involved in the crash. The man accused of shooting 2 people to death at a Louisville Kroger is competent to stand trial. This comes after Gregory Bush was found incompetent for trial back in May. Investigators say last year Bush, who is white, shot Maurice Stallard and Vicki Lee Jones. Both victims were black. Bush is facing hate crime charges that could bring the death penalty. He has already pleaded not guilty in both state and federal court. The Kentucky National Guard says more than 150 soldiers are deploying to the Middle East. The unit is headed to the U.S. Central Command area of operations to conduct construction missions in support of Operation Inherent Resolve. The last deployment for the Owensboro-based unit was in 2006 when it was sent to Kuwait during Operation Iraqi Freedom. Former special counsel Robert Mueller arrived on Capitol Hill this morning for a much-anticipated hearing into his nearly 2-year investigation of Russian interference, the Trump campaign, and the president's actions while in the White House. It just wrapped up about 30 minutes ago. CBS's Nicole Killian has the latest.
Information and belief, so help you God.
Former special counsel Robert Mueller spent the morning facing lawmakers' questions about his 448-page report. Many focused on whether the president may have obstructed justice.
Was there sufficient evidence to convict President Trump or anyone else with obstruction of justice?
We did not make that calculation.
How could you not have made the calculation with the regulation?
The OLC opinion, Office of Legal Counsel, indicates that we cannot indict a sitting president.
Mueller spent the afternoon fielding questions about Russian interference in the 2016 election.
Russia committed federal crimes in order to help Donald Trump?
When you're talking about the computer crimes in the charge in our case, absolutely.
Mueller stuck largely to one-word answers, and rather than elaborate, he frequently referred members of Congress back to his report.
Republicans say the hearings changed nothing.
I think at the end of the day, what we have found is exactly what we started with. There's been no movement. In fact, if anything, it's now time to move on.
Democrats say the hearings show evidence of potential crimes in the White House.
This should have blown their minds because they saw for the first time Robert Mueller saying yes to multiple instances of obstruction of justice by Donald Trump. We've got a felon right now in the White House. American people are seeing it.
The White House says the president watched some of the hearing. He tweeted sarcastically thanking the Democrats for holding it. Nicole Killian, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
President Trump's 2020 presidential campaign sent out a fundraising appeal during the hearings, asking donors to give $2 million in the next 24 hours to support the president. Let's head over to Wall Street now on this Wednesday afternoon. The Dow closes down today more than 79 points. The city of Middlesboro received a $1 million grant to fix sewer plant issues. Mayor Rick Nelson says when he first took office, he found some of the deficiencies with the sewer plant, and they were even fined. The project is being divided into stages, and the $1 million Appalachian Regional Commission grant will cover stage 1. Nelson says the sewer plant was built in 1985 and has not had much work since.
Just like you would have a 1985 vehicle, if you don't do some improvements on it, it's going to start tearing up on you. And unfortunately, that's what's happened to our sewer plant here.
Engineers say the total cost of the repairs to the sewer plant will be between $8 and $12 million. Coming up on First at 4, Facebook is facing a staggering fine for privacy failures and misusing personal data.
We're getting a taste of weather we normally wouldn't see until late September right now. I'll tell you how much longer it'll last in just a few minutes.